All right, so today I just want to show you guys how to do your layouts for the uh, final project. Remember that you're already to have had a rendered image where you add branding. Look at the examples if you have any questions. Those examples are on the course documents page. Okay, so let's look at this in perspective here. And I'll look at it in shaded. So this is my model, and I'm basically just making 2D images of the object. So I've made a top, I made a front, and I made a right view. Now I want to make an isometric view for the area that I'm going to do leader lines. So I'm going to right click, set view to isometric. For mine, I'm going to use a southeast isometric. You can use whatever view you feel highlights your object best. And make sure that you do as many views as necessary. For mine, I only need a top, front, and right view to do dimensions because those dimensions don't really change when I do a back view, a bottom view, or a left view. But if your object is different on the different sides, you will need to do more views than what I'm doing. So let me go ahead and make this object 2D by typing command make 2D. Click on the object, hit enter, brings up this dialog box. For my purposes, I'm fine with just the default, so I'm going to go ahead and go OK. This is going to take a minute for this because it's a detailed object with lots of different line weights and stuff. So now I'm going to pause and come back when it's done. Okay, so now it's made that object, and it's all highlighted, but I can see there's an overlap there. So I'm going to go ahead and click and move this down just so it's away from the other object. Okay, and then I'm going to go to a top view here. Set view to a top view. All right, so those are my different views of the object. I've got this saved elsewhere. So what I'm going to do, actually I'm going to go ahead and just do this so you know. I'm going to go to save as, and go ahead and call it chair layout and save it. Oh. Okay, so now I've got my 2D views. I can just click and delete this after I've got it all done. And now what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and join all these lines together. So I'm going to click on this whole thing, join it, click on this whole thing, join, click here, join. And there might be some lines that aren't joined together, but most of them should be. And so it'll make it easier to maneuver the objects. Okay, so now I'm going to move this whole object over, and then I'm going to move this object down there, and this object right here. And you want to get them lined up as best as you can. So I can draw a line from the midpoint here straight down and then use that line to line up here. So move this, so move, enter, click on a base point and move it to the line. And since that midpoint should line up with the midpoint right there, I've got this lined up. Leave that line there. And this, of course, I'm using the gumball, which is right there, or down here if you're a PC user. And delete this. So now I've got this here, and these objects over here. What I can do now is dimension it. So dimensions, the settings for dimensions are under your settings, the same place where you change your units and stuff like that. Dimensions are right here. You can set the size and all of that kind of stuff right here. So feet and inches, make sure that that's selected. Font, you can use whatever font you want. sizes, my text height. I might want to change that. We'll see how it looks. Arrows. I'm going to actually use architectural ticks. Leader lines are fine like that. Format. That looks good. Dimension line extension, I'm going to do 0.18 there as well. Okay, so let's give it a shot and see if this is the right size. So I'm going to leave that open here, and then I'm going to go dim, just regular dim. If you have an angled object or angled line, you can use dim aligned. That aligns with a diagonal. If you have a circle or something like that, you can use dim radius right here to give the radius of the circle. So say if you've got like a coffee pot or something like that and you want to do the dimension of the opening on the top of the coffee pot, you use dimension radius. But for my object, it's really simple, so I'm just going to use regular dim. So regular dim will keep the leaders straight. So dim, enter, and then I'll go from the back point here to the front point here, and then go over this way. And you can see it's a little too small. So now what I want to do is go back into my dimension settings through settings here. And I'm going to change the size of my text. Right now it's at 0.18, which is, you know, a little, about 1/8 of an inch. I want to make it maybe 2 inches. And then maybe make this 1. Okay, and arrows, make them 1 as well. Make these ones 1 as well. So that should give you a better size. And I'll do above the dimension line. And maybe this height is a little big, so make it 2. Okay, so this is some good sizing. Now you can see my object is well done there. Let's see if okay, that looks good. All right, so that's one dimension. Now I'll do another one for the left to right on this, and I'll just go from this endpoint here to this endpoint here, pull it down. Then I'll come to my height. Probably want to do the overall height of the object and the overall height of the seat. And then I'll do on the back one here, maybe the leg distance from one to the other. And I'll do another seat height and the back height here. So that gives us our dimensions. And then now we want to make this one the object that we create leaders for. So I'm going to go ahead and move this over a little bit here, and I'm going to go scale. So I want to make this one bigger than the others so that it fits in the space better. So I'm going to select the whole thing, scale, and click once, click again, and then do 2. No, that doesn't work. Scale here, click from here to here, and then bring it out a little bit, just so it's a bigger size. Okay, now we want to do leader lines. So leader, we just type that, enter, and then do an arrow from maybe this leg here, and I'll turn ortho off at this point so I can get a nice diagonal angle, and then I'm going to turn ortho back on so my secondary line is straight. And then click there, and then hit enter. And here's my leader text, so I can type here lay the legs. And actually, with drafting, typically we use capital letters, so I'm going to turn my caps lock on and do that again. So LE for leader comes up, click on this leg here, turn ortho off, and go right here, and then turn the ortho back on, and enter. Click up here, type whatever information relates to your object, hit enter again. I'll bring up the same command, and go there, and then ortho off, click, start to move out, ortho on, click, enter, and type whatever information. Okay, and so you should describe all of the pertinent information, maybe the materials that are used, if there's some specific functionality. This is where you would do that. Okay, and then you move into your layouts, and we'll create a size of 19, 13. And you might have to have your printer selected. I'll use my design jet here, but you might not. And then go OK. And we can see that it sets up the layout pretty good already, but we'll select this double click in, select this object with the leaders, and I'll move it down into position over here. Okay, so we've got, I'm just going to leave it scaled how it's shown here. And then we want to go back to our layout here and type our paragraph. So I'll use the text, enter, click on my starting point, make sure my text height is the height you want it to be, and I'll go ahead and type whatever. And type a whole paragraph there. This paragraph you can use capitals, or you can use I would probably just use standard text. Pay attention to your grammar and go create text. And then you can see it's a little too long here, so if you click on it and then right click, go to object properties, I can enter some make it fit a little bit better. You can also scale it. Ooh. so it fits the size and shape you want. And then we can go back to our layout here. And I would probably put branding up here, maybe move this down a little bit. Look at the examples to see how to make it look best. But those are the principles that you'll use. Be creative and also demonstrate all the important information. Once you're done, you can export it and change it into a JPEG through Adobe, because PDFs do not print through my system. Actually, I'm just going to use print. Save as PDF. Same settings you basically used to submit your styrofoam project. Okay, and then you go up here and you go File, Export to, and then export to an image file right there. One other thing I noticed on my layout was that the line weights were a little too thick, so I went ahead and fixed that, and I'll show you how. So when you go up here and you go File, Print, there's a little arrow box that you can click that opens up this whole view here. Should be right about there. And if you click on this and go to Line Types and Line Widths, make sure your default line width is set at 0.18 millimeters here, and then when you save it as a PDF, it'll have the thinner line weights that you're looking for. Okay, and that should do it for the project. It should look something kind of similar to this, hopefully with more detail.